Welcome to the Trellix Spotlight series. My name is Nick, and I will be your host. Today's session will focus on accelerating your security operations with Helix's improved analyst experience. This webinar will be recorded. If you prefer not to participate in the recorded session, please feel free to disconnect at this time. A link to today's recorded presentation will be emailed to all registered attendees. Now let me hand it over to our presenters. Ladies and gentlemen, Henrik and Sneha.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Trellix Spotlight series, Accelerate Your Security Operations with Helix's improved analyst experience. First of all, a disclaimer. This webinar is a brief overview covering the common trends, use cases, demos, and scenarios regarding this topic. It's not intended to be an all-encompassing session. It's not possible to cover all of the detailed scenarios in a 1-hour webinar. If you need assistance, please don't hesitate to contact Trellix technical support. So during the session, we'd like to hear from you. Please use the Q&A feature for questions during the webinar. There will be product experts that will answer questions in the platform throughout this session. And some questions will be answered live, and some questions will be answered in a digital form via the Q&A session. Now, after the session, there will be a post-webinar survey. Make sure you share your feedback and suggestions as you see fit. So my name is Henrik Olsson, as mentioned here, and I work as a Senior Director of Product Management for Security Operations here at Trellix. I have about 27 years of experience in the market, and I've had many different roles in my career, mostly focusing on SOC tooling and SOC workflows, such as SIM products, endpoint products, NDR products, and everything that goes around a security operations center to be able to properly conduct investigations and incident response. We also have Sneha Tiwari here on the call. Sneha is a Senior Product Manager here at Trellix, leading the Helix product and our next-gen SIM products in terms of analyst experience. She has a broad background within IT engineering and also has a master's in industrial psychology. So today's agenda is going to be, we're going to review the unified alert context, basically how you review alerts and how you conduct investigations in Trellix Helix. Along with that, we're going to showcasing our WISE AI capabilities in terms of alert triaging and case management. And we'll also touch on integrated hyperautomation, basically automated response workflows within the Helix environment. So some additional context here. When we talk about alerting experience, we're talking about the incoming alerts generated by Helix itself or alerts generated by connected sensors and technologies. So here it will show you how we can unify multiple different atomic alerts into multi-vector attack chains that allows analysts to more easily conduct investigations. When you drill into an investigation, there will be additional context, such as the timeline of events that led up to the detection itself. So Sneha is going to walk through how analysts can make sense of all of this data and basically identify the root cause of why this alert was raised, as well as provide an explanation to what happened. Now, working with alerts, in a lot of cases, you need to pivot over to a search functionality to be able to access all of the different events and alerts that have been sent to a solution like Helix. So Sneha will also cover how we go from alert to search in order to extend your investigation to nearby events that happen at the same time or previously. Trellix WISE, as mentioned here, is our AI capability in the solution, and we're going to showcase how we use AI in order to prioritize and triage incoming alerts and automatically create cases for you. And for hyperautomation, being our response framework, we'll showcase how you can go from a detection to actually responding to the threats, whether it be additional investigation that happens automatically, or if it's tied to remediation actions. I will also showcase how easy it is to add to this framework and basically build your own automations very, very quickly using our no code slash low code capability within our automation editor to basically create the required steps required in order to conduct a response exercise. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Sneha to run through the demonstrations.
Hi, everybody. I hope we are doing great today. So today we'll be talking about the entire DFIR workflow. Right from investigation to response. So yeah, let's dive in. Um, Okay, so this is the landing page when you log into Helix, and you will be able to access the alerts from this page here. So this is the alerts list page that you see here. All right, and as you can see, you have some quick filters that you can use to quickly get to the alerts of your interest, and then you also have a filter bar which you can use and type in for something. You also have column filtering enabled for each of the columns that you see here. And you have an option to drag and set by a particular group and create those row groups if you want to. So for example, here, let's say if I want to create a group for status, then I should be able to do that, and then all the alerts that are there should be grouped by the status here. So as you can see, there is new, and then inside of new I can see that there is 8639, and then similarly we will have um, in progress, acknowledged, etc. Right. So basically, this is the feature that you can use to create group buys for a particular column set. Yeah. Also, as you look into this page, right, you see that there are hundreds of discrete alerts here from individual sources, atomic alerts, and all of that. And you see that only in a period of last 7 days, the results are 8639. So it's quite overwhelming, right? So how do we solve for it? We solve for it by enabling this group alerts. All right. So as you can see, once we have turned this toggle on, the 10,000 plus of alerts that we were looking at is now consolidated into just 75 for the same time period, right? So the group alerts, what it basically does is it consolidates the hundreds of discrete alerts from various sources into single correlated multi-vector thread. And this helps you in prioritizing the significant issues by cutting through the noise and presenting you with a unified view of related threads. Okay, so for this demo, let's consider a case of a phishing email. All right, let's see. Okay, let's consider this one. So before even going deeper into the alerts, how would you know that this alert is this even the alert you should be looking at, right? So for that, you can just click on any of like anywhere in this particular row, and you will see the details on the a quick concise summary of what's going on in this alert. And you can resize the panel, and you can read through the summary and decide whether you want to go deeper inside and take actions on this, or this is something that you just might want to skip for now. So this tells you how was the alert triggered. So as you can see, there are five alerts that were present inside of this alert, and then you see the timestamps that they were first seen and last seen. The emails inside are one from email source and four from endpoint, and you also see which assets are affected. Okay, so I see a mail address, then I see two posts that are not contained, and then I see a section called "What action should I take?" Okay, now, but before even this, like, how do I know that this two different alerts from email and endpoint are even related, right? So this is something which I get to know from this field called group by. Now, what is this group by? Group by is basically an attribute that tells you why these alerts or events from different vectors are linked together, right? So in this case, the MD5 of a particular file is the same that was seen in this email that was deemed as malicious and also then later executed at the endpoint. So let's take a deeper look into this particular alert. So let's go into the alert details page for now. Okay, so in the alerts detail page, I see that the group by value is there, and then I see that there are five alerts associated in the one that I'm looking at. There are five child events. There is no standalone event, and the actions that were taken on this particular alerts is zero. All right. So um, let's also read this particular description, which tells you what is exactly is going on. So, a suspicious attachment from a phishing email was successfully executed on an endpoint, and this action represents that there was an initial access attempt by an adversary. Okay, now that I have read the description, it seems clear to me like what is going on. And then I see something like a timeline, which is basically a sequence of all the alerts or events that have happened in order for this alert that we are viewing at the top to occur. So, in the timeline, I see that there are quick filters related to severity and source, which is great. And then I see that there is this endpoint alert that was triggered, which detected a malware. And then I have the malware name, I have the alert, individual alert, if I want to go look at that specific alert. And I also have the rule which triggered this particular alert. Okay, let's see. It has an event under it that Trellix HX identified suspicious activity, and then I have another HX alert which also detected a malware, and it was detected, but it's clear that it was not blocked. Um, as I go further into the timeline, I can understand that there were multiple, well, at least four HX alerts that were triggered. And then there was an email alert, right, which is potentially saying that the malicious message was delivered to the recipient's mailbox and that was not blocked. Okay, I have my key fields. I have a fairly good understanding at this point, and I have my key fields written on each of these timeline cards. So we have the from address, the recipient address, the hash of the file. We have the subject, we have the IP address, we have the host names on which these viruses were executed. Okay, so let's say I want to get into the details of this particular alert here. So okay, I get the event details here and I can quickly resize this so that I get more realistic to read through the details, right? So it tells me the agent IP, agent host name, the different hash for that file. I also see the virus name, I see the agent ID. We also have the device name. I basically see the asset aliases by which this particular host might be referred to. Um, okay, and I think I have an option to copy this. Yes. So if I'm unable to read it, I can also copy it and read it in my notes. Um, all right. So, okay. This gives me a fairly good understanding. And this has all the details that might be of interest to me. If I want to access the raw data of this particular event, then I can go to the raw data section here and I can either look at it from here or I can copy it, export it, and read it as I wish. All right. If I want to maximize this still, then I can click here and this will take up like 60% of my screen and then I can read it more clearly. You also have the option to filter the timeline by newest first or oldest first. Like if you want to understand what was the first event or alert that happened, or what's the latest in the context of this thread that I'm looking at. So you can filter the timeline accordingly. You can also export the timeline for reporting purposes. So as you export this particular timeline, you will be asked if you want to see only the visible nodes or you want to see all the nodes. Now, why this question is because you might have seen, right, that inside of this there is one more node which is basically the event for this alert. So if you want to export the entire timeline or you want to just export the ones which are visible to you on your screen. Then you also have, so if you don't want to go through each and every card one by one, then you also have the option to expand and collapse all of the cards that you see on the timeline. And you can make use of this feature here. Um, well, sometimes, so this timeline is relatively smaller, but sometimes the timeline can get too big, right? In if it's a case of a complex nested correlation, like for example, right? So what you can do is you can basically pin a particular node that was severe or that you wanted to, um, come back later and conduct your investigation further upon. So you can choose to pin the node from here. And what happens when you pin a particular node is, all right, so I have pinned this particular alert card. And then now what happens is, as you can see, as I scroll down the timeline, this remains sticky here at the top. All right. So if you come back and click on this, then what it does for you is basically opens up the details panel for you so that you don't have to now search for that particular alert or event that you were looking at. So this is a pretty cool feature. And then so this one was for the pinning, but now what happens in the case where almost 90% of the alerts that you are looking at in the timeline are really interested, and then you only want to hide certain alerts slash events, right? So you can always filter it by these, but what we have also provided is you also have the option to hide a particular node. So just if you click on hide, what happens is it gets hidden from the timeline, and then you can just click around and go through the timeline as usual, and you can export it without the hidden node, right? And if you want to unhide it, you simply click on the eye icon here and it will come back. Okay. If you wish to just remove a particular pin node from here, you click on this and it will be removed. Okay. Let's look at the table view of the alert details page. So the table view is nothing but a different representation of the timeline view itself, in case where you have to quickly sync through the data and try to understand what's going on, what are the artifacts, what are the different sources involved, what's the MITRE technique, and what is the alerts that I'm looking at, right? So you will see the email alert here, you will see the 4 endpoint alerts that we looked at in the timeline. You see the MITRE, you see all the artifacts. Basically, the artifacts are the fields that you saw on the timeline card. Okay. So you see all the artifacts available here, and you can quickly scan through them. And you can see basically all of the data along with the same filters that you had in the table view as well. You can also choose to export the table if you want to, and customize some columns if you feel like you are really interested in just looking at, let's say, name, severity, and artifacts, and you don't want these three. So you can do that from here, and it lets you customize your columns as you wish. All right. Um, you can also add note. So adding note is not, or pinning is not just a capability for the timeline, but you can also do that in the table view. All right. Okay. So now that I have enough context of what's going on, let's go back to the timeline view, if you will. And let's say if I'm interested in this, like understanding, okay, maybe what other events are associated that has similar MD5. So what we have done is basically you can just click on this little actionable drop down here, and you can add it to a new search, or you can add it to an existing search if you have. You can group by this particular field value, whichever that is, and you can also copy it if you want. So let's say I add to search from here, then you will have your time range filter, that whether you want to search for all the events that has this hash in the last 4 hours, in the last 8 hours, 7 days, 30 days, etc., right? And if you choose apply and click search here, then you will be taken to the search page, right? Which basically will give you the results that has this particular MD5 that we were interested in. Okay, let's go back to this alerts while the search page is loading. So This functionality is not just available for um, the group by entities, but it's also available for all the data types, all the data fields that you see on the timeline and anywhere on the alerts details page. Like for example, this agent IP, right? So you can add it to the search here, and now the search results are loaded. So let's go into that. So as you can see, there is one entry, but I want to see the past and the raw fields for this particular event. So let me just click on this past. So if I turn the toggle on for past, what happens is I get all the past fields related to that event that has this IP address associated, and I get the information here. Right. From here as well, if I want to add to a new search, or include it from include it into this particular search, or exclude from the search, I can do that. I can also group by field, so then my results will be grouped by this particular field. And as you can see, the query is changed here, and then you just click search and your results will be shown accordingly, right? If I also want to see the raw message here along with this, then I get raw and parsed. And because it's just one entry, you don't see any more rows, but yeah, this is how it will look. And you also have, well, you also have a time wrinkle, which basically lets you search anything before or after a few seconds, minutes, or hours that this event has happened. So you can apply the time wrinkle from here. You can add your seconds, minutes, hours, days from here, before or after, and then just hit apply, and it will get you the results as you want. um, okay. You also have the option to copy it to clipboard if you want to, from here, and export it. For example, if you want to export this particular table, you can add it from here. If you have to add it to a new case or add it to an existing case, then you just make a selection from here and you add it to a case or you add it to a new case, right? Okay. All right. In search, you also have the option to save this particular search if you want to come back and later access this. Or you can, if you want to create a query from sorry, if you want to create a rule from this particular query that you have written, then you can also do that, and it will take you to the next page. You also have options like search activity and saved searches, which basically, the saved searches is nothing but all the searches that you save. Like for example, if I save this one, then I'll be required to provide it a name, and then this is the query. I cannot make edits to the query, right? Because this is essentially the same query that I want to save. I have an option to, because the time range set here was 3 days, I have an option to override the time range if I want, and select the tenant ID and just click save. So this will save my query, and then I'll be able to access it from the save searches page or from the search activity. If you just directly go to search here, you will be able to see the search activity and save searches, so you don't have to go inside the page and access it. All right. Um, if you click on create the particular rule from the query, then you'll be taken to the rules page, and you'll be able to you see that this says rule from search this. So you can change the name, you can update your conditions, because right now it was just on the agent IP. So you can change these conditions, and you can have your rule set for that particular search that you had done. Okay, that's it. Yeah. um if you want to access search in Helix, then you can either do it like you can pivot to the search from the alerts page as we have seen, or you can also go to this hamburger menu and then you click on search, and this is the search landing page, right? So this page here, so right now, because I just came from the alert, this is saving the query that I had last written, but essentially this will be blank. um, if you are new to this and you want to see some examples that might help you form the query, then you can see these examples, or you can click on show more examples that will give you some examples on how to write it. um, You can also access the search activity and save searches from here. All right. Now let's go to the assets section here. So basically, the assets section, if you want a view that is solely focused on what are the impacted assets and entities in that are in relation to this particular alert, then you will find it in the assets tab here. As you can see, you have the filter by alerts. So if you want to just focus on the individual child alerts, or you want to focus on the entire alert, you can do that from here. You can click on the filter, apply as you want, and ensure the list of everything associated in this alert. So you have the list of assets here, and you have the list of alerts or events this asset is associated with. And this is in context to the one bigger threat slash alert that you are looking at. You also have the containment status for each of these. Now here we have provided asset here, because we were not able to associate it to a corresponding user or host. So we have provided you the email address, and that is the recipient's email address, and it is linked to this particular event here. Um, and as you can see, this host here is associated with two different events, right? So this is something that I want to start my investigation from, right? So this can be your starting point. Then we have the MITRE tab. So the MITRE tab is basically the list of all the miters, techniques, and tactics that were observed in this alert, and it is denoted by this particular circle, if you will. So as you can see here, this is a case of initial access, phishing, and then you can see it has sphere phishing, right? Sphere phishing attachment. So this is your entire MITRE. The list of entire MITRE technique and techniques, and you have the ones which are associated in this alert. We also have history. So history is basically something that tells you what has been going on with this alert, if there was any action taken, a status was changed, there was an assignee to this, or anything that any activity pertaining to this. It's almost like a logbook. So anything that is associated with this alert and it was done will be captured in the histories tab. Um, you can use it for your reporting purposes. Notes, as we saw in the timeline section, notes is something where you will see all of your attached notes, if you have it here. Otherwise, you can, if you wish to choose, if you choose to add any note, then you can also do that from here. If you want to promote this particular alert to a new case or add it to an existing case, then you can do that. If you want to add it to an existing case, then you have an option to search for a particular case. From here you just search by the case ID, and you just select, and then it gets added to that particular case. Or if you want to add it to a new case, then you create a new case, you give it a name, and then you assign it to yourself. And then if you want to put in a tag or something, or a description, that is totally optional. You create, and then you go back to the alert. Or if you want, you just go back to the case and start your investigation, or continue your investigation from there, rather. All right. Then we have the assigning. So if you want to assign it to yourself or any of your teammates, you can do that from here. You can also change the status from new to in progress or acknowledged, right? Okay, if you want to suppress this particular alert from here and not go to the rules and do it, you will have the option to do it, and you can see that for all the alerts that are associated with this particular rule, they will be suppressed and they will not be visible unless you filter by this particular rule ID. So you can select the time range you want to suppress this for. The maximum available option is 4 hours, and you can type in a note if you want, right? And that's optional. You also have the option to export this alert data if you want for your report purposes. So you can get the export of this alert in JSON or the summary PDF. Summary PDF is basically just the summary of this. So that can also be exported in PDF. And if you want to look at the rules, you can access the rule of this particular alert from here. That will take you to the rules page, or you can also do it from here. right? Okay. Uh, Trellix also offers, automatic triage using AI. So all the alerts that you see are run through our Gen AI, which is Trellix Wise, and they are triaged. So if you want to see those alerts, they usually gets converted. So Wise converts them into cases, and you can access it from here, cases new. So as you can see, I am on cases new here, and I can see that there is a prefix called RelicsWise, which basically tells me that these all are being triaged and analyzed by Wise. So let's see, let's click here. So see a brief description that what was going on in this particular case. You see that here are the list of key milestones, that when was it last created and then last updated. What does this case contain? So it has only one alert and it has one notes. So let's see what's there in the Wise notes. So here, as you can see, Wise gives you an event description. It gives you the classification of the threat. It gives you an entire analysis, which is pretty much detailed, and which tells you the alert name, the MITRE associated, and it also tells you the critical missing information, the profiling of the user, IP address if that's involved, and then how Wise tells that this is a successful attack evaluation and not a false positive. So you'll find the evidences here. And then, these escalation related details, and so basically it's a pretty detailed analysis, if you will, and you'll also have the severity criteria, that what Wise is recommending it to be, and then it will finally provide you with the investigative steps and the immediate remediation actions that you can take, right? If you wish, you can also export this notes, and you can use it for reference purposes. So that's for the cases. Okay. Um, let's go back to the case summary page. So based on your understanding of this particular case, if you want to type in your summary here, you can do that in the summary section. You can also look at the related alerts that were in this case. From here, you can access the assets if anything was involved from here. You can also look at the cases timeline, which basically tells you what and when things have happened and what are those things. So basically, this alert that was associated with this case or was added into the case, there were two events, and then there was one search results which was added. First of all, there was a case created by Wise. Then, as you click on each of this cards in the timeline, you will see the details for it. So this was basically triaged by Wise. So it's coming as the case created by Trellix Wise. And then what does the case contain, and the most recent activity. If you wish to not have anything included in the timeline, then you can just turn this toggle off and it will disappear from this timeline here, right? Um, So this timeline will tell you the activities that were done on this case. However, if you want to add a particular, artifact or have a manual entry for this case's timeline, then you can do so by clicking on the add entry. So you can type in the name here. You can type in the description, and you can choose whether to have it in the timeline or not. And you can also have some formatting done for your description. The actions lets you basically add the artifact, so you can either add the domain or IP address as you wish to. And so for example here, and then you can just type in test or test. If you want to add in a note or let's say a description of the artifact, you can do so, and then you can create, so it will basically get added in here, and it will also appear in the related assets section. You can also change the severity, assignee, and the status of the case from here. And you can take actions like delete, export, and share in case you have permission to share a case with your teammate. Um, right. And if you wish to change the name of this particular case, then you can do that from here. You can also change the description, and you can add in some tags from here. So You can just search for a particular tag, or you can choose the tags that have been created, and that can either be a custom tag or a system generated tag. So you can do that from here. Okay. Um, let's talk about the response now that we have fairly understood what's going on in this particular alert, and now we want to take some actions on it. So we go back to the summary page where we see what action should I take. So there are some recommended next steps, but along with it there is also zero actions. So what does the zero action means? It basically tells you that if there is any hyper automation action that has been taken for this particular alert, and in this case it's not, so that is why it is coming as zero actions. So if I click on the view details here, it will take me to the respond tab that you see here, which I can access from either this or this place. Let's do it from here. So now you're in the response section, and you see that because there is no hyper automation workflow or action that is being taken on this alert, you see that this comes as zero. You'll be able to add an action from here, from the alerts details page itself. So you can click on add actions, and this will basically tells you or give you the list of all the available actions that were published. And you just need to configure an action from here. You will see who is the owner of that particular action and when was it last updated. You also have an option to filter. So for example, let's say in this case I filtered by analyze email, right, because it's an email related alert. So I see that there is an action associated with it. But however, I don't know what's the steps involved. So let's go to this particular action and see what's inside of it. Okay. So I clicked on that particular analyze email action, and this is the screen. So basically, for this demo purpose, what I have done is I have removed the steps so that I can show you how to build a particular action or a workflow if you want to. So let's say we want to analyze this particular email, and we want to see the file reputation. So here is the list of actions that you can create and use to make your workflow, and it's just as simple as a basic drag and drop. So let's say I added an action of analyze file reputation, and then I add in a condition here, right? Which would be, if it's true, then what do I need it to do, and if it's a false, then what do I need it to do. So let's say if it's true, then I want to delete that email. So I will select delete email if it's true. uh, Okay, delete email if it's true, and if it's false, then I just update my case saying that it's a false positive. So I update my case here. Okay, all right. So now you see that I have added in the steps and the conditions that I want this particular action to take. You see that there are little warning signs, right, which says configuration is incomplete. Let's see, what does it mean. So configuration is incomplete basically tells you that you have to configure the apps that I want this particular workflow to execute on, or use this app in order to take the action. So here I have virus total, I have Trellix IVX, and then you'll also have any other app that you have an API key for and you can integrate. So you'll have the list of all the apps available here. So let's say for now I will go with this particular app, and then it also asks you for the parameters. So basically you will have to pass the file hash here, you will have to enter the password, and then um, you will see what does the output looks like. So in the output you will see that there is a type boolean, and it will tell you basically whether it's malicious. You will also have the report associated, you will have the status, and you also have the option to include the raw output if you want. If you provide all of these steps, then your configuration will be complete, and it will be like this. So this trigger warning will disappear basically, and you just can save. So for now, let's say I save based on this. Then okay, so the updated workflow analyze email is successfully updated now. So you see that the warning sign has gone. If I want to see the logs associated with it, then I can see the parameters, but because it's not running, otherwise if it's running, then it can actually tell me the state of each of these actions that the workflow is in. So yeah, I can also copy this step if I want to, so that I don't have to build it again and configure the parameters again, and I can choose to delete it if I want to from here. Similarly, I can do it for all these three actions as well. And finally, this is the end of my workflow. Okay, so I've quickly configured the parameters from here. Now, as you can see, the publish button is enabled. So I can publish this workflow. Once I publish this workflow, it will start appearing on the alerts respond screen, the one which we were seeing a moment ago. So I can publish this workflow from here, and I can enter my comments. Let's say publish for now. So this workflow is published successfully. The status is changed here. And then I'll be able to execute. So one, because this is published, it will now appear in that uh, alerts respond tab. And then I can also enable this workflow. And once it is enabled, it will be ready to run this workflow, right? So I can run this workflow from here, or I can go back to the alerts page, and then I can see it, and then I can run it from here, right? So either ways, let's say I configure this, click on configure this action. No input parameters are required because this was already configured and published, ready to run. So once I click save and run, this says that workflow added and executed successfully, and the status is in running, right? It tells me the alert for which this particular workflow was executed, what was the action name, what was the execution time and date, and then performed by and status and the start time, right? So you can find all of these details here, and similarly it will also be updated here in the actions on alert details. You can see what is the running action, on which alert it is being run, and then similarly it will also update on this summary section. Here it says failed. So if you click on this and go, well, this is still showing as running. So there might be a glitch here. In this respond tab, you also see the number of executions that you have created or run. Sorry, you will be able to see the number of executions that you have run. uh, and you can either run the action if it has, let's say, stopped, or if you want to delete the action, then you can do it from here. Okay. um, you can access all of your workflows that you have created from here. So you go into the workflows tab from here, and then you will see a list, and then you will see a list of all the workflows. So as you can see, the analyze email was the latest workflow that we created. So this is coming on the top of the list. It has its status, it if it is scheduled for manual trigger or automatic trigger, the tags that was associated, and the last updated time. So you can see all of those in the workflow section. And you can also alternatively, if you want to create a new workflow, regardless of a context of a specific alert, then you can create a new workflow from here. You can add in some name, description, tags associated with it, and then you can create a workflow which will basically take you to the workflow creation page, that is this one here, and you'll be able to create a workflow. Okay, now we have seen from where to access the workflows. Now we'll see if you want to access the workspace, which is basically the space where all of your workflows are managed. You can access it from the hamburger menu. You will see the details of your workflow executions here. That when was which was the executed workflow, whom was it executed by, the status of it, and when was it started. So workspace is basically a page where you can manage all of your workflows. All right, so this brings us to the end of this entire workflow from investigation to response. If you guys want to learn more about anything, or have any questions, feedbacks, concerns, anything, right? Feel free to send it our way. And these enhancements are now live for all of you, so you'll be able to see that in your Helix instances. And with that said, I'll pass it over to Nick. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Henrik and Sneha. As a reminder for everyone, Trellix Education Services offers exceptional training to go along with our award-winning products. If you would like to learn more, please visit the website listed on your screen to see all of our offerings. Now let's get our Q&A session started. I see we have several questions, but it's not too late to add your question. Please type it in the Q&A window to submit. Additionally, take a moment to fill out the survey. Your feedback and suggestions are always appreciated.
All right, so our initial question here from the audience is going to be, so Sneha, what is the difference between alerts and cases, and when would you actually use a case?
Right. So think of cases as your investigative playground where a case can include multiple related alerts. You can also add events from search, evidence, or things of that sort while you're investigating. And cases also supports collaboration. So yeah, cases are really your investigative playgrounds, and alerts would be like something happened which is generated by either your detection rules or UEBA or analytics. So,
Right, awesome, thank you. So the next question is going to be, can I define my own group by, so I see connections between different alerts or have dynamic correlation instead of having it done via the rules?
right. So you will have static fields in group by via rules, but what we do offer is on the tables view in the alerts list, we have the functionality to group by certain column sets. So if you are interested to, let's say, group by a particular status or assignee, then you can do so. So yeah, that functionality is there.
All right. So the next question is going to be, what do you mean by standalone events in alert details?
Standalone events basically are weak signals that were seen in the context of that alert. So it might have matched on a certain like partial rule condition when you were defining that rule. So it may not have resulted into an alert trigger per se, but in the context of the alert that you are viewing, it could be a potential important information that you need to look at. So that's a weak signal.
All right. And the last one here is going to be around alerting and hyperautomation. So do you support an auto trigger functionality so I can trigger automation workflows when an alert happens?
So right now you will have to run the workflows from the respond tab. But going forward, we have this feature planned for our upcoming release where if a particular workflow is associated with a rule, then it will, and that rule is triggered, then the workflow associated with it will also be automatically triggered. So we will have that going forward.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much, Sneha. I'll hand it back to Nick to close out the session.
Excellent. Thank you both for taking on those questions. I want to thank everyone for joining today's webinar, and a big thank you to our speakers, Henrik and Sneha. As a reminder, a link to today's recorded presentation will be emailed to all registered attendees. This concludes today's webinar. Stay safe, everyone.